I want you to take just a second.
What does everyone need to bring to the table?
And imagine a world without war.
What do I need to bring?
Imagine a world where everybody's needs are met.
So that once we get there, we have everything we need.
Food, shelter, clothing, community.
Stepping into a new idea.
Being willing
Where it begins in imagination.
to look at what it is that we actually believe about ourselves,
Stepping into new ways of being.
about this new idea,
For our trip to the summit.
about even summiting the mountain of a new way of being
And what does that look like?
for us as an individual.
A communal level.
The global community.
Is that possible? Do we believe in that?
New ways of seeing the world.
And are we willing to let go of the beliefs, the stories, and the patterns that no longer serve us?
To the new way of being. To a new earth.
Good evening and welcome to night 4 of the Soul Evolution Collaborative O-Shift Now What Summit. Oh, it is amazing. This is night 4 already. It feels like just a moment ago we were preparing so many of last minute details and the final touches on things, and this week has just flown by, but it has been mind-blowing and uplifting and inspiring and empowering in so many ways, and it has been really real and authentic, for sure, a roller coaster of emotions and feelings in the best way possible. And so here we are, night 4. You might notice it looks a little different already. And so this night is actually just going to be what I think is going to be a crazy amount of fun, because we at Soul Evolution Collaborative tend to do things different. And we have a lot of fun doing it. So we're inviting all of our speakers from this week who are all here on the screen with us to have some of this fun. And we're inviting all of you out there in Facebook and YouTube land to have fun right along with us. So feel free. This is a panel discussion turned somewhat game show. And so there is a chance, if you would like to ask questions of the panelists or share of your inspiration with each other, the things that came up for you this week, feel free to do that the whole time in the comments, and we will get to as many of those comments and questions as we can. But yeah, welcome. This week has been amazing. Hopefully you haven't enjoyed it as much as we have, and maybe this is your first time hearing about this. So there is the summit itself. This is the night, 4th night of the summit, but the summit itself all week long is actually still available to you if you are interested, if this is your first time hearing about it, on the Soul Evolution Collaborative website. If you go to soulevolutioncollaborative.org, and I'm sure we can get that in the chat, and you go to events, you can open up the summit, and you can actually still sign up for that, and all of this week's nights are there for you. We are more than happy to make this available to as many people as possible. Also, while we're here, before we really jump in and get started, since we are live tonight on Facebook and YouTube, we have all taken a moment to do the things, the social media things, click the like buttons, do the thumbs up, the hearts, and give it a share. So if you feel so called to do that, we'd greatly appreciate this getting shared all over the place. It certainly helps with the math and the algorithms and all of that behind the scenes social media stuff. So tonight is going to be fun. Like I said, it's a panel discussion that we've decided to put a little bit of a twist on. And so what's going to happen is we are going to spin a wheel, and the wheel has numbers on it, and each one of us have been assigned a number. So when we spin that wheel, that number that gets chosen, that person gets to be asked that question. So we have a list of questions to ask, as well as perhaps questions that come up in the comments. So we're going to spin the wheels, and who knows what's going to happen, but it is going to be fun for sure. All right, shall we begin? Yeah, cool. So I guess we begin with the wheel, right? Shall we bring the wheel into this? Introduce everyone to the wheel?
Bring the wheel in.
Bring the wheel.
The will of the people.
Bring the action. All right, here we go. So for question number 1, who is it going to be? fun is that? All right, number one.
Every time.
Every time. It is funny every time. So, Reverend Steph. Reverend Steph has informed us they are a panel virgin. And so we have a virgin, everyone. So yeah, let's give it up. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, so
I love a good first time.
That's right. So the first question for you is, and after Reverend Steph answers, we'll have a little bit of time for some chiming in from the peanut gallery as it is. So the question, how do you personally foster transformation and evolution in yourself?
Oh, that's like my favorite question that I ask every single day.
Awesome.
So, because this global transformation is a personal experience. And I think that it's being responsible. It's a responsibility of mine to become whatever it is that my authentic soul has been called to be here for. So, in my personal experience, I have overcome chronic anxiety and severe depression. And so my path of transformation has just been one day at a time, right? This moment is right here, right now. And so participating in the day is how my personal transformation has happened, how the transformation of my world has happened. And it's really about checking in with my mind, my thinking self, and making sure I'm listening to the one who is thinking, and doing that work, and participating in such a way that's just questioning. Why do I think that? Why do I feel that way? Why am I triggered? Why did that offend me? And to just, instead of engaging in the physical realm of those responses, to go inward and find out for me, what is that truth? What is the truth of that moment? Because everything that happens to me today, if it triggers me, it's not from that moment. It's not from the moment that triggers. The trigger comes from a place in the past. In the past, we can't do anything about. But right here, right now, this moment, being mindful, being contemplative, and studying yourself. I mean, come on, you're the most interesting person on the planet if you really dive in to the things that are going on in your mind, and to participate as you're a companion to yourself. So hold your hand and walk the path and be mindful, and just participate in the moment, and one moment at a time.
Yeah, I love that. Very nice. Thank you.
It was great for your first time.
Yeah. Well done.
Well, thank you.
Cool. Anyone else looking to chime in on that one? How do you foster personal transformation and evolution in yourself?
Well, I'll go.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Steph. For me, it is curiosity. It's like, I ask myself this like probably 1,500 times a day. It's kind of that internal, like, I wonder what that's about. It's just this this question that's always kind of at kind of that surface. It's the thread, throughout my day, when I feel those like triggered responses, or feel those responses that are way over the top for what's in front of me, and not with a tone of like, oh, what the hell is that? But a tone about, I wonder what that's about. And so meeting that with gentleness and this kind of quiet curiosity. And you're right, it's never the thing that's in front. It's never that. It's always something that is below the surface, or something that I hadn't thought about, or something that has been an experience or a stronghold of a past experience. And so, yeah, just being, and it's interesting how those few words can create this like instant expansion, because then I've been so honed on this, and when I can really get curious, it opens it up, and then I can really kind of see it from all sides, and approach it with gentleness and curiosity and questioning and guidance and all those things. And it never takes long for me to figure out what it's about. And then I can just say, oh, that's not true. This is the truth. And so this curiosity is always pointing me back, bringing me back in balance to what I know to be true. So I'm with you. Curiosity is the superpower for sure.
Should be a t-shirt.
Yeah. Maybe I'll make one of those t-shirts.
Dibs. Yeah, right.
Dibs on that.
Awesome. Cool.
Well, if nobody else is going to chime in, I'm going to jump in.
Oh,
So
I was bringing back the wheel. I'm jumping the gun. Hold on. Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'll make it real quick. For me, like my best days are the days that I remember when I wake up to remind myself, like, let's make this a good day. And just to take a moment, in the morning to set that intention for the day, to open myself up to that curiosity, like, let's see what's going to show up and how it's going to be. And then that just kind of reminds me throughout the day in my moments of being activated, if something activates me, or if something comes up that's a little challenging, it's like I show up better because I've reminded myself in the morning, like, oh yeah, you're going to be more patient. Like, I use the example of my children a lot. And if I set that intention in the morning, it just makes a huge difference. And things show up when I do that throughout the day. I'm reminded more often to stop and breathe and just take in the moment wherever I'm at. And the more times that I'm able to do that, stop and breathe, wow, it just opens up all kinds of stuff. So setting that intention in the morning for me is huge.
Yeah, nice. I love this. I love being able to share the comments from YouTube of the people in the panel. Yeah,
guide positioning status.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
All right. Are we ready for the wheel? Bring on the wheel.
Bring it on.
There we go. For question number 2. Of course.
Of course.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
As ready as I'm going to
Get
be.
stretched out, get yourself ready. Oh, there you go. Excellent.
Nice.
All right. This
Whoa,
is a
whoa.
wow.
Wow.
Raymond can stretch.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Come
I have
on,
a
I'm
whole
ready.
other
Come on,
question
bring it.
around that. A whole other question comes up.
This is slowly becoming Hollywood Squares.
I don't know if it's slowly.
Yeah, right. Maybe not slowly, quickly.
Oh,
Very quickly.
wow. Okay. Woo, I got
Okay.
myself all
And the question
divided.
is,
And the question is, the Right Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson. What are practical ways we can foster transformation and evolution in our communities?
okay, so for those who tuned in the other night, you might remember me saying this idea of my practice is identifying everything in the physical world, every practice, every person, every system, back of it has to be a spiritual template. So in the Bible, when it says physician heal thyself, for me, I go to, okay, metaphysician heal thyself, which means I do the same thing that a physician does. I look at the body, the community, the body of community, the body of whatever it is, and identify what does it mean to be healthy. Same thing, my podiatrist did with my foot. Same thing the optometrist does with the eyes. What does it mean to be healthy? And then where is the whatever that's not showing up as that? And then identify how do we get from whatever this is. So CSL Greater Baltimore came together, 4 communities came together as one. There were some things going on. Identify that. Where is the pain? Is it lower back pain? Is it what Reverend Steph said? It's like chronic anxiety. What does that feel like? Where in your body? What's the somatic experience? Where is it? What does it cause you to do? Like when you can identify that, then it's easier to identify therapeutic practices, spiritual practices, ayahuasca. If like you can find out whatever it is you need to do when you can identify this. So I do the same thing that I do with myself, identify what's going on, where, like I said, the God positioning status. Where am I seeking to go? Where am I right now? And what needs to happen to get me there? That's the short answer. If that makes sense. I can go back to my corner now.
Yeah, you're on mute for the rest of the night.
Yeah, you're it. That's it. You're not going to get out that easy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, perfect. That's perfect, Ray.
I would love to add to that answer from a community leader standpoint. By the way, if this is New Thought Hollywood Squares, I think that makes me Shadow Stevens. It's a Gen X reference for you. You know, I spoke the other night about creating brave space. And I think if we're going to foster collective evolution, then our communities have to be, you know, brave spaces where we have courageous conversations. And so specifically, how do leaders foster that space? I think you have to have an unflinching courage to go there. That's what comes up for me. An unflinching courage to go there, whatever there is at the time, whether that's issues happening in your own local community or the national news or whatever. There's you know, our business, the business of ministry and community, is such a weird dynamic, really, when we think about it. It's laced with codependency, right? If they don't like me, if they get upset, you know, they might walk with their money and and it creates such weird, unhealthy dynamics. It's terrible, and so I think it is really incumbent upon us to create brave spaces where leadership has that unflinching courage to go there and say, I'm not going there to intentionally offend you or send you out the door, but I'm going there so that you can trust me, that we have a brave space where we can tackle these things together. I'm not pretending to have all the answers or speak solely from a particular viewpoint, be it liberal or conservative or whatever, but to actually bravely open up the space and ask those questions that Steph was talking about and that Raymond was, like, what is this about? Why is it we think this way? Why is this a trigger for us? So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Every time, Raymond. That's right.
I'd love to chime in if I can.
Go for
it.
it.
You have time?
Yeah.
All right. So I think from the most practical standpoint, we teach theology or it's oneness, right? That's what we're about. And yet our experience is not that. So I think I feel like our charge in this world is to facilitate an experience of oneness. Like, how do we do that? And what I have done, the very practical, simple thing that we can all do, all of us, and any one of us in our communities, you don't have to be a minister or practitioner, is to facilitate dialogue, right? Is to facilitate those circle conversations where you're bringing people face to face, where you're coming face to face, and diving into the discomfort, diving into the question, diving into the possibility, and hashing it out. And that's, as David said, we create the safe, the brave space for people to jump in and do that. And I think that we can each do that in our communities. And that's how we change the world from a grassroots, basic level, is giving people the tools to have their own lives work. Yeah. Science of mind, we're really great with the mind stuff, right? We've got that. Now it's the heart piece. Now it's time for the relationship. It's time for things like courage and compassion. We've come out, like, I know, like all of us, right? We're all in some form or fashion the wounded healer, have been through our dramas and our traumas and come out on the other side. This is what gives us the pull, the desire, the want to share it with other people. So we go back into the muck, hold hands, give them whatever they need, come back through, as needed, because we know the way. And we know we don't have to stay there. We know what's on the other side. So that's my piece.
That's a good piece. That's a great
Good
piece. Yeah, Masando.
Yeah, I might chime in a little bit too. I think I love what Reverend Dr. David said about how weird relationships can get within church. But I mean, to me, like, it really is about relationship building. From a community organizing perspective, change happens at the pace of our relationships. But it's important, like, if we're like looking at community relationships, something that was like I learned about kind of early on was being able to distinguish between public and private relationships, right? Because when we're looking for, like, occupying spaces in our communities and fostering, dialogue and doing the things that we need to do to create change, I think we also have to be really clear about like our public relationships that we're developing and how they're different from like an intimate friendship or relationship, right? Because we can't sort of bring in those dynamics to this public relationship, because often that public relationship will mean I'm going to challenge you a little bit. Often that public relationship will mean I'm going to publicly ask you to make some agreements to move this thing forward, right? But it's kind of rooted in building trust, like one-to-one, but it's a different kind of goal. Like when we're seeking to make change in our community, we're looking to find like common goals that we can work towards, moving towards together. And that requires that we have a relationship, that we build trust, but we also have to be able to discern, like, I'm working with you, but like, we're not like necessarily like friends, right? We have this public relationship that we're fostering and we're developing. So I'm going to interact with it in sort of a more professional way in that sense. Different than I would with my partner or a friend. But the relationship still is at the core of it, right? Fostering that trust, working towards a common goal, pressuring and holding accountable. Those are all aspects of life, right? And of what it means to be human. But when we're looking at community shifts and change, it requires that we build these kind of public relationships, that help us also learn and understand from the communities that are most impacted by whatever issue that we're, working towards. It's often that we're going to learn the most from those who are most impacted, and they're probably going to have the best sort of solutions for the problems that they're facing, right? So it requires that we also listen a ton. And I think, where the world is moving now, I feel like we're moving so much into like a collective community organizing model for change and for organization, because it requires that, that all voices, get to be a part of and at the tables that are making the decisions that affect everybody, right? So, this is like that's a big question. And if you're doing social justice work, like, it kind of requires some of these nuances, but I think ultimately it's about, recognizing that it's going to be the quality of the time that you put into these relationships that fosters trust, that fosters an ability to make change that will allow it to happen. And that ultimately relies upon your own sense of, your own worth and voice in any situation, and then how you can, help bring that to the table. So anyways, I'm rambling now, but yeah, there's a lot to say on this subject.
Yeah, that's great, Masando.
I'd just like to add too that, even if you as a viewer are someone who is, maybe not a community leader or not necessarily within a Centers for Spiritual Living community at all. When we say community, I think that also plays out globally. Like whatever, everyone has a community, whether it's formalized or informal. And just about everything that we're talking about here plays out the same way there. You know, brave space. Be the one to create that brave space, even if it's between you and one other person to start. Just create a space with someone who is also willing to go there to start and have conversations you've not had before, and let that grow. Become more comfortable being in that space, and then invite in somebody else, right? I mean, everybody, we can all do this. And as Reverend Cindy said, I think for sure there is a major grassroots element to how this shifts, right? Like we as community leaders have the opportunity to engage in this at a larger level a little bit, but I think as individuals, we all have that opportunity to create some brave space. I love that idea, Reverend David. Thank you.
Yeah, I
I want to chime in too.
Go for it.
Because, you know, I absolutely agree with what everyone is saying. And so I just want to kind of throw that idea of curiosity back in there, because you talked about curiosity a minute ago when it comes to personal transformation. And for me, where curiosity like really up levels and becomes the superpower is when I'm able to meet with somebody and just stay open and curious to what they're going to tell me. Because one of the nights, I don't remember which one of y'all said it, but talking about jagged edges, right? Like in community, we're all meeting each other. I believe it was you, Reverend Cindy. We're all meeting each other with these kind of jagged edges. And then in community is where we tumble together and where we smooth out our edges together. And so part of that is like my jagged edge meets up with your jagged edge. And then we both make up a story about the jagged edges. Neither story is ever correct. And then we come at each other and then trigger, right? And so if we can just be like, hey, like I've even come to people and been like, I'm making up this whole story about that thing that you did. Like, and here's the story. Can you tell me what's really going on? And it's never that, right? It's never the thing. And so if we can just be super open with like, hey, you know, what was your intention here? Like, what was behind this action? Because I'm making up a story and I'm getting triggered from it. And so I feel like, you know, curiosity, when we can do that within ourselves, is so profound, but then it can be up leveled, like even further when we can step into relationship with another human and be like, I'm just going to show up in curiosity and see what's going on with you, because that's where our eyes are opened. And that's where we can really step in and find out what the person needs. Like you were talking about, Reverend Masondo, and just listen with this true open space and just creating that brave community.
I wonder, like, wouldn't it be amazing, like, if we did that in everything? Like, you know, the story I'm creating is this. What's really going on? Just imagine, like, just that one question could literally just turn everything on just upside down. I mean, just that one willingness to do that. And making that a habit in like our own personal interactions, and it just kind of bubbling from there. I love that.
The story I'm creating is, it is time for another question.
Big money, no whammies.
Oh, snap.
Not me.
All right. So first one to spit out a question. Chris, you're on the chopping block. I mean, you get to be asked a question.
I have a question.
Okay. I'm ready.
Are you sure?
Are you ready?
All right, see, Chris, here's my question for you. My question is, as we're talking about this, should I make it broad or should I simplify it for you? As we're talking this week about just all of this, right? My question for you is, what is SCC's, Soul Evolution Collaborative's, short-term goals in 2022? What is y'all's one-year goal for creating personal transformation, communal evolution, and global collaboration just next year?
Oh snap! Good thing
World
we did that
domination.
1 year strategic plan.
We have a 5-year strategic plan, which would go like point by point. This is going to be big.
Reverend Dr. David. Yeah. Ooh, that's a big question. I wanted to say, it was world domination is what we were talking about. Then we crossed that out, and it's world collaboration. So yeah.
I'm trying to find it for you, buddy. Hold on.
We don't get to use notes. Y'all don't get to use notes. Let's hear it, Chris.
All right.
Well, we love exploring these ideas, and really like this whole last year, it's interesting at where we started, and we kind of just like, what are we going to do for this first month? And then each month coming up, like, what are we going to do for this month? And it was really interesting how when we ended up here, the 1 year anniversary, and like, what are we going to do? We got to do something to kind of, celebrate this. And as it all came together, like this summit, and like, let's talk about, how do we really take this from the personal level and really start sharing it together and making it into this global thing. In hindsight, it was all mapped out, like just perfectly, the way that it fell into place, that we could have never planned it the way that things kind of unfolded and the way they came up. And so really, we do have a plan of things that we are slowly releasing, adding new ways to get together in community with one another. But it ultimately comes down to is just keep doing the next thing that we feel inspired to do, and open it up. I have been just floored throughout this summit and inspired by the 6 of you speakers to like really seeing like, Reverend Dr. Ray talked on the first night about, the responsibility that, as we open ourselves up to these ideas and really ask and earnestly say, how can we make a difference? It's one person at a time that wakes up, that's taking it into their own individual lives, where they work, where they play. You just never know, like the power that one comment made to another person can ripple out and affect change, and just the way that the power that we really have, one person at a time, one thought at a time. So I'm certainly inviting more collaboration with great minds like all of you, because this is how we can do it bigger and bigger, as we bring in more people that have never heard of the science of mind, who've never heard of personal transformation and the power that it has to, like Reverend Steph said, around anxiety and other, for me, the changes in my life. Yep. Just keep getting this teaching out there, and have that conversation with bigger and more groups so that we can spread it.
Can I chime in too, Christopher?
Yeah, absolutely. Save me.
No, I mean, you did a great job. And I think, over the next year and years and years and years and years beyond this, I think that the goal of this Soul Evolution Collaborative is this idea of engaged spirituality, this idea of that we know, like the spiritual communities are they're 4 walls, but then there are also other things as well. And so really tapping into where are these areas, these unreached areas, these untapped opportunities. And this is not about, hey, come listen to us. This is about, hey, this is a faith, philosophy, way of life. This is a way of looking at life that is truly transformative. How can we partner with you in this idea of transformation and this idea of evolution, and understanding that for some, walking into a church or a center, it's not their jam. And for some, it may be a virtual community. It may be small in-person opportunities. It may just be all these platforms that are at our disposal now, and even the ones that'll be in our disposal 5 years from now. But it's this constant evolution of how do we bring this teaching that we know is transformative to the world. And this virtual platform that we have been blessed with, literally there can be these communities in every town in every part of the world. And then this idea of transformation and evolution and collaboration, it is truly made possible because of just our ability to share this teaching, this idea, this way of looking at things with the world. And so that's always going to be the thing that's at the front of the forefront, is not remaining stagnant. And, we're doing it this way now, doesn't mean we're going to do this way tomorrow. I mean, it's just always constantly evolving, constantly meeting and being relevant, in all aspects of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I am done.
And I'll just add to that, because this one idea, because it's so much a part of our conversations on a regular basis, that everything we did in year one came out of like 3 years of visioning, like literally the spiritual practice of visioning and asking of this thing that is greater than us, what is looking to come through us. And so we've been led by vision from day one. And so we certainly have, the 5-year strategic plan, and we certainly have like these great ideas, and we have plans of unrolling, this content on the website and this new event and these quarterly things and all that. And yet all of that is directed by this greater, this vision, this idea, that when we keep coming back to that, to some extent, it feels like, we're all kind of making things up as we go, but to have that vision, it's like, oh, we're not just like pulling it out of thin air. Like we're like, this is going somewhere, and it is certainly going in a direction and in a way that is bigger than we could have come up with on our own. And so I just think that vision, having that vision and sticking with the direction that vision is moving has been so crucial. So I would imagine we continue doing that as well. Like that's if there's one thing we do this year, it's follow the vision.
Yeah.
I think I'll consult. We'll meet and chat as we usually do, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be vision.
Yeah.
Thanks for having Chris.
Yeah. Hopefully the other questions will be a little easier. No. They won't be. That's okay. There we go.
Well, darn.
How'd that happen?
I think it's rigged.
Yeah, really. Who found this thing?
No one has a question. Moving on.
No questions yet. Next. Yeah. So first person to come up with a question, you get to ask it. I know somebody who wants to know something. Yeah. We got a little Jeopardy theme music. We'll take a moment. Everyone think, what do we want to know from Rev Ryan?
Maybe an easy one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, geez.
All right.
All right.
Rev Ryan, what has been your greatest stumbling block to your own personal evolution?
Wow.
Oh, that's easy.
Right?
Oh, that's super easy. Bless you. Bless you. That's easy. It is my unrelenting ability to unclench. That's it. Just this like white knuckle hold on. It should look like this, and this. And so when I do that, it narrows my vision, and all I see is this. And so for me, this spiritual work has been recognizing those times, recognizing the white knuckles. And so when I can recognize it, I can breathe into it. I can wonder, what is this about? Why am I holding so close, tightly to this? And then be able to unclench. So for me, it's been this, I guess it's a need to control, I suppose. But it's just this clenching in certain areas for me can be a stumbling block, but it also has been an amazing teacher. And when I can see it that way, then I can, loosen it just a little bit and a little bit more and a little bit more. And just a constant revisiting. And that doesn't mean I don't squeeze it every now and then again. But it is. And so that for me, evolution and transformation is not necessarily not ever having that, but it's recognizing it quicker and quicker and quicker and sooner being able to see that and then being able to kind of breathe into that space and let go a little bit and to then trust that there's always something going on. The universe is always conspiring for our good, that everything is constantly rolling in that direction, rolling in the direction of my good, rolling in that direction. And so the more that I can unclench that, the more I can roll with it. So that's been my area. That was super easy.
Good for you for getting the easy one.
Yes.
I would love to hear from a couple other people their answers. What has been your greatest stumbling block in your personal evolution? This is a good question.
Unless somebody else wants to go.
It's on you.
Mine would have been recognizing that the messaging of my domestication from my family, teachers, etc., recognizing that it was a lie, recognizing that I am valuable and worthy and deserving, period. Not because of anything I've done, not because of anything I've achieved, but simply because I am an incarnation, an individualization of the one, love made flesh. That right there quantifies me and qualifies me for having what I desire and I deserve in this thing called life. So my greatest stumbling block is getting the beep out of my own way so that I am reminded of that truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. That.
Yeah.
For me, it was getting over my codependency behaviors, triggers, tendencies, etc. I was in codependent relationships, intimate relationships, and codependent relationship with the ministry, and it just spilled out everywhere. And pulpit ministry in particular just beat it out of me one painful moment at a time. Some of the things that Masando mentioned, the relationships and the bonds that you create in a community naturally, because they're the people that you're with all the time, and then those change, and the whole host of things that just consistently sort of beat it out of me until it was like, okay, I get it. I have to stand up for what I stand up for, and I'm not really here to. It was really hard for me to say, right? I'm not here to please other people. I'm here to speak my truth and to allow the gravity of that be its own weight in the universe, to draw to it all those who want to hear it, and not worry about the rest, not chase people down the road, not do that in my personal life, and don't do it in my professional life. Took a little bit of time, but I think I'm pretty good at it now.
Nice. Yeah. I love that. All right. Is it time to bring back the wheel?
I think Steph wanted to say something.
Oh. Whoops. Go ahead.
Oh, not if it's time for the wheel.
Whoa.
No, it's all you, man.
The wheel's jumpy. The wheel is it always thinks it's time for the wheel.
I was just gonna say, I think I took a scoop out of all dishes of that, right? Because for me it was, and it's kind of like this new understanding of that I was afraid, like a little kitten stepping in front of the mirror for the first time and seeing itself. And so my fear is that afraid of my own light, being afraid of shining so brightly that, I've had all of these experiences in my life where the more I shine or step out or stand out, the more difficult relationships became, or those kinds of things. And so being afraid to step out and just shine anyway. So yeah, a little helping of yours and a little helping of yours. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And now, Lighthouse.
Who will it be? Who will it be? Woo!
Number 2.
All right, Reverend Dr. David Alexander.
Bring it on.
Fantastic. So the question, and it's kind of fun because this one just came in tonight from Casey Wilson. What is your most radical?
We didn't plan this, I promise. This was not planned at all.
Yeah, so there's the question on the screen. What is your most radical idea of creating a world that works for everyone?
Whew.
Radical. Ooh.
You got the easy one.
Right.
I think it's time for a commercial.
Right, exactly. Right after this. Wow. That's so funny because that's something I talk a lot about, the radical implications of our principles, right? Which is taking them from the personal to the collective, right? What is oneness? Which is when you're in touch with that oneness, you get into your wholeness and heal yourself. Then what does that look like on the collective level? Like that's definitely a big theme in my messages. So, but to try to make it singular, my most radical idea. I don't know. World peace. That seems like such a show pageant answer, but no. I'll tell you this. I do my work with a measuring stick, and I have it. It's probably in my jacket because I wore a jacket on Sunday. But I have a stone that I have that I keep in my pocket or on my desk when I'm doing things like this. And one side of it, I wish I had it to show you. I'll scramble around and look for it, but I'm pretty sure it's in my jacket from Sunday. It has my eldest son's Josh's name, and the other side it has William's name. William is 4. Those of you know, William is 4, soon to be 5. Josh is 16. Josh was born in Zambia, and William was born here. So raising 2 boys of color, I'll say it that way because they're not. Josh does not identify as African American, and he is now 6'4". He's getting close to weighing more than I do. He's a presence in the world, right? And I'm very aware of the world that is waiting to receive him as he gets his driver's license, as he is out beyond the protection of the circle that we as his parents can provide for him. I'm very cognizant of what that currently is, just in terms of statistics, paradigm, perception, biases, all of those things, right? And so the work that I do often is I do it through the lens of what can I do to put a lever on the scale, so to speak, to ensure that when my youngest is 16, the world that's waiting him is a little bit different and a little bit better. And so it's a very specific timeline, and that's with me every day. And so that's my most radical idea, that we can make that much change that quickly. right?
Mhm.
That parents like me who have particularly young African American men in their household don't have to think about the statistics of 3 times more likely to get pulled over by the police, twice more likely to be arrested if they are pulled over, 2.5 more times to be physically assaulted or abused if they are arrested, so on and so forth. On and on it goes. Those are not things that parents should have to walk around with those things, mindfulness in their head, and tell them, if you get pulled over, make sure and you've seen it from grown men, right? Pull over into a lighted, brightly lit gas station if it's at night. So there's cameras. If you're near home, don't pull over to the side of the road, just come all the way home and stop in front of the house. Things like this that we are instilling in him. Those aren't conversations. So my most radical idea is that those conversations are no longer necessary because we've done enough work on the collective that it changes the narrative. There you go. I think that's pretty radical.
Yeah.
I want to interject right there. That reminded me of the story about how I caused the pandemic. I don't know if anybody knows this one or not.
You did personally?
Yeah.
Good job.
I've told the
Pretty good.
story a couple of times, but yeah, so I do take some responsibility. It was around that same idea of the timeline. I was having a treatment and visualizing a world, and I was thinking about my children and how a lot of times it's the pain that we see in the world that leads us to that place to where we know we have to create something better. And as I was doing like a treatment around it, I was driving on my way to work, and I realized like there was a part of me that was holding back and didn't, that was saying like, yeah, I'll create a world that works for everyone. Like, but there was a part of me like, but it can't happen in my lifetime. Like something like that radical can't happen. And it's going to take years, decades. And then it dawned on me like, why? Do I believe that? Then what's the point of any of this? And then, so that's when like, I just had this mental switch, like, hell yeah, I want this to happen before I leave. Cause I don't want to see my children have to go through the even growing, all the different things that are causing us to change now, that socioeconomic differentials, the environment, the climate change, everything. And this is right at the beginning of right before lockdown. So I realized like before I die, I want to know that my children aren't going to have to go through worse things than I had to.
Mm.
And it was a switch like, oh yeah, if I'm going to do this treatment, I have to believe that it's possible. Absolutely. So this timeline for your 5-year-old or 4 going on 5 before he's 16, absolutely, this is possible. It can happen in the blink of an eye. But enough of us have to believe it. So, and then it was about like 4 days after that the lockdown happened. My work shut down, and it's like, oh, I did that. Sorry, guys.
Worth it.
It's all spirit. Yeah.
Yeah. Rough. Yeah. Mm.
So I want to tell this really quick. It's a parable from Hinduism of Krishna was incarnated on the planet. And there was a time, there's all these different eras that we're going through. And when he was incarnated, we were moving from the golden age, out of the golden age, back into this age of separation that we're currently in. And these 2 men, this one man bought a field from this other man, and the man found a bag of gold in it. And they came to Krishna because they were arguing with each other about who the gold was. But it was, you should have the gold because when you sold me this field, you didn't know it was there. So this gold rightfully belongs to you. And then the other way, you should have this gold because when you bought the field, neither of us knew about it and you bought the field, right? And Krishna said, give me 3 days. I'm going to think about it and I'll have an answer. And by the time they came back 3 days later, they were arguing the opposite. Well, this is my gold because it's my field now. Well, no, this is my gold because it was my field when I didn't know that gold, right? And they were fighting. And Krishna said, we have moved out of the golden age into the age of separation. And so then the parable became that when we move back into this golden age, it is going to happen that quickly again. 3 days that we move into this golden age and everything changes, and it is like the flip of a switch. And so I hold on to that as you gentlemen are talking. I hold on to that it can just happen in the blink of an eye.
Yeah. I second that.
Yeah, we're fully in the Kali Yuga, the Dark Age. I did actually an independent study when I was in college, when I was studying abroad in India, around what Hinduism and Buddhism has to say about the Dark Ages. And what was really interesting, right, that I found that the Buddhists and Hindus came back to a lot, but there's this idea in Buddhism called precious human birth. And precious human birth is the idea that, this incarnation that we are in, kind of halfway in the physical world, halfway in the spiritual world, living in this world of polarities, living in a world where there's a lot of joy and beauty, and living in a world where there's a ton of suffering and everything that is far from that. The Buddhists say this precious human birth means that, like, that very context of life is the most auspicious context in which to become enlightened and free. When you're a god, it's like, it's too easy. Like, life's too easy, so you don't need to grow or evolve. And they say when you're in the animal world, or when you're like that hungry ghost, or living in, heavens and hells, there's too much suffering. Like, there's too much suffering to become enlightened, right? There's too much only instinct. But this precious human birth, we get to live in all of these different worlds, but it's actually the most potent way to become free and to become enlightened, and through that, helping usher us into the next golden age. So, yeah, I think that's kind of what my talk was a little bit about last night, but it made me think of that, Chris. So I appreciate that parable too.
Nice.
The wheel.
The wheel is back.
Down to 4.
That's right. There's 4 left. It's never not funny.
Number 5. I know. I love that sound.
Yeah.
All right, Reverend Cindy Grimes, you ready?
Cindy.
I'm ready.
Who's asking? Am I asking?
Oh, you're asking. I'm sorry.
You can ask. I don't care.
I apologize.
Oh, no.
All you.
All right, I'll ask.
Good.
All right, Reverend Cindy, what do you see as the greatest social barrier to this idea of global collaboration? Oh, I'm sorry, societal barrier, not social, if there's much of a difference. What do you see as the greatest societal barrier to this idea of global collaboration?
Yeah, wow. In so many ways, it's like that idea kind of goes against our human wiring almost. There's the human part of us that is like, wired for survival and, getting what's mine, and competition. There is a part of us that, that has that, and the world really lives inside of that. There's not enough. I need to get what's mine. I need to take care of myself. Just this belief in separation. It's the paradigm that we live in. That we are separate from everything. I'm in it all alone. And then we come into this, there's all that fear. And so people want to isolate because they're afraid. So let's make taller, wider, bigger walls, which just increases the fear and the anxiety. And it just becomes this vicious circle. We have done it to ourselves. But that's where we shine. That's what we're here to teach, right? Is reminding people of the truth that we are all part of the same oneness, being like a body, like a human body. Imagine there are all these cells in your body that have their own consciousness, and the brain thinks it's all that until the sphincter says, "I'm sorry, nothing's passing here." right? Then we realize that we need all of it. We are all in it together. And when there's little pockets that say, it's all about me, it's all for me, let me get it all, we call those become like tumors. They go and they do their own thing. They become a cancer and they become an illness. And so that is our, we experience this individually and collectively. So again, it goes back to doing our own work and then not being afraid to speak our truth, to share your pain and your stuff. And I'm not saying, I don't share my stuff when I'm in the midst of going through it, right? Like I have my people that I work through my stuff with, right? And then I can, once I'm settled in that and I've come to some understanding, then I can go and share with people, this is how I got through that. But I always, we all need our community. Like Masando said, you need your inner circle where you can go and just let it all hang out. Somebody pissed you off, something really triggered you because you are still a human being, even though we're all on this spiritual path. Like you have your place where you can let it go. And then, and you've let it go and you've moved through it. And now you can like breathe into like, yes, I remember. Now I can go out and speak to that person who doesn't see exactly as I do, right? Or, we all have those folks, right? So let me see. I think I'm rambling now too, right? What was the
what do you see as the greatest societal barrier to this idea of global collaboration?
Yeah. Do we believe it's possible? Just, it's not, we talked about transcendence right at the very beginning. Like, it's not about transcending, like the stuff is there, the human stuff is there. It's really about self-transcendence, like transcending your own ego stuff. Like, it's just about me. And remembering there's a much bigger circle. Right? Everything we do affects everybody. But it starts here and we have to take responsibility and accountability for that. So I don't know if I have answered the question, but that's what came to mind.
That was perfect. I loved one of the first things you said was the idea that our human nature almost seems to oppose the idea of collaboration. And that resonated so strong with me because when we're looking at the idea of communal evolution, I mean, we're literally reframing communal evolution as like evolving our human nature, evolving literally like the process of evolution, not just evolving like how do we do things differently, but literally the evolution of human consciousness, the evolution of human nature, the evolution of the wiring of our brain. I mean, we're like literally, that's certainly weren't the words you used, but that's what I'm hearing is that like we are being asked to rewire our brains to do things way more intentionally. I don't know if that's what you meant, but that's what I heard.
Yeah, and I do want to add something. I want to share about the experience I had of teaching social emotional learning and trauma awareness, basically these peace literacy skills in prison, right? So I come from a family of cops. My dad was a cop, my husband's a cop, my daughter's a cop. And I go into this men's prison, to run circles with 25 men who are literally from 8 to 80. And they've committed all kinds of crimes, but they choose to be there in that circle. And it is the most incredible thing. I'm the only woman in the room. I'm never afraid. I know I feel safer very often with these guys that are in my group than I do with the guards that are supposed to be protecting me walking through. And it's a magical, incredible moment. I know peace is possible. I know that it is possible because I've experienced it. When you sit in a group of people like that and they're all ages and they're Jew and Muslim and Hindu and atheist, and someone speaks a truth and it could have come out of your mouth, right? And yet they're completely different life experience. But you know that there is that connection and I see myself in you and you see yourself in me. and it's a magical moment, right? And we can all create that space through presence, through our practice, through just intention, right? To be like a walking circle where people can come to that awareness being in your presence.
Yeah.
That's powerful, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we all have the capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a unique, sorry, Ray.
No, good.
No, and Cindy, when you first started, you were talking about this, this space of, like, we're talking about fear. And that's something that came up last night in the after party when we were talking about that. This is a unique opportunity to choose not to live from a space of fear, but to live from this space of, I don't know, expectancy, this space of what is possible. And then, being able to recognize that in what is perceived as a barrier is actually an opportunity. It's actually an opportunity to look underneath it and to really flip it and live from, and to choose to live from another space, and not the space that perceived barriers come, which I think perceived barriers in this whole conversation of transformation and in our communities and in a global thing, a lot of perceived barriers come from this idea of fear or the unknown. And then it's really easy to live from that space. It's super easy for me to start to create this story out of fear and then live from it. And then I'm 20 miles ahead before I even know it. But really stopping and making an intention not to live from fear. Kind of like the old Rumi poem, this don't move the way fear makes you move. And to really choose to move in a different way. And that's what came up when you were talking, Cindy. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Just a quick pause for a little love from the crowd. This is a rock star group. Thank you for sharing all the wonderful insight and knowledge. So collaboration, so inspired. Thank you for being here and hanging with us for sure. Yeah. Awesome.
Can I chime in?
Yeah, absolutely.
So listening to everything that has been shared, I love the way that Reverend Cindy phrased some stuff, and Reverend Ryan mentioning the after party last night, which I wasn't able to go to. But one of the things that I see a common thread, that as a society, we worship at the altar of precedent, not principle. And like it just everything, like when Steph mentions anxiety and Ryan mentions white knuckling and David mentions changing the paradigm of so that my children live in a world where racism is only something that's read about in books, right? Like all of that, and even when Chris mentioned, Chris with a C mentioned the idea of, do I believe that can actually happen? Like what immediately came to mind, something that Reverend Cindy said, what came to my mind was in Matthew when it says, truly I say to you that unless you become like children, and then my mind immediately jumped to, sorry folks, in the Man of Steel, when Jor-El is talking, sorry. Yeah, I know, David. And Jor-El says, what if a child dreamed of becoming something other than what society intended? What if a child aspired to something greater? For me, that's principle. When we know, then there is nothing. We understand that with spiritual mind treatment, there is no person, there is no circumstance or situation that can deny truth, period. So the greatest obstacle that I've noticed as it shows up in everything that we've mentioned tonight is this idea. Fear is based upon precedent. It's based upon something that happened in the past. And then I see the triggers that remind me of, oh, shoot, that's that thing that happened in 1984. Oh, let me be on guard. It's that, rather than being open to what is truth calling forth now. And if I believe in this infinite consciousness, and I believe in our declaration of principles, we believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, then what am I invited to believe is possible for spirit to create in me, in the circle that Reverend Cindy mentioned, with people of different faiths that are fighting in certain places in the world, but in this context, we see no reason to fight. We see reason to come together in the ohana of what it means to build a world, because that's what they're doing in that circle. They're building a world that works for them. They're building a world that works. Jew, Gentile, Muslim, Catholic, Protestant, atheist, doesn't matter. 18 years old or 80 years old, we are together in this. That's the model. That's the demonstration of. Now, how do we replicate that in our centers, in our families, in our, as Reverend Masando said, in our professional and personal relationships? It's that. Educate, connect, apply it, and then replicate it. We're the vaccine for racism. We're the vaccine for sexism. This teaching is the answer to that. It's time to mass produce it and make it available in every prison, in every school, in every courtroom. Like, I don't even talk about social restorative justice anymore. It's restorative healing. Like, it's really the process of healing the system. Bring it, because what's happening right now isn't really justice. So we need to bring healing to it. And before I start rambling, I shall silence myself.
Wow. You can hear the crowds cheering, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah, good night.
All right.
Yeah, I want to throw in a real practical piece here for folks. When speaking about restorative justice, that's my jam, Raymond. When there is discord in a relationship, when something happens and you want to bring that circle, right? You bring, number one, the parties, if you bring in together the person who was harmed and the one who did the harm, their support people, and a neutral facilitator. That's in an ideal circle, okay? And the people, number one, have to want to be there to make things better, right? Not to give you a piece of my mind or put you in your place or, look for forgiveness, none of that. It's to make things better. And you ask 4 questions. Number one, what happened? And every individual in the circle speaks to that. What happened, right? Number 2, what was the impact? And every person gets to speak about that. Now, it's like there's a 360 camera in the middle of the event and you're getting every perspective. So your picture, everyone's picture of what happened has grown. The third question is, how do we fix it? How do we restore wholeness? Right? How do we make things right if possible? And the last thing is, how do we keep it from happening again? Right? And depending on the formality of your circle, you might even have people sign off on that. But literally, this could be done in, as Raymond said, in an elementary school classroom. This is being done in prisons. This could be done in your house. I'm a walking circle. If I have a conflict with somebody, I'm thinking those 4 questions. I know what's going on in my head, what's going on in yours, and we take it from there. So that's my bit of practical peace building, whatever tool for your toolbox.
Brilliant. I love that.
Oh, you guys just bring me so much hope for the beloved community. The beloved community that is this possibility that's here right now. It's in this moment. The beloved community of how to be in relationship with one another in a space of love and wholeness and oneness, and the touchstones of the hidden wholeness, the circles of trust. It's such a beautiful way of entering into conversation. And so our community reads the touchstones before every class, every course, every workshop, everything. This is how we operate and function as a community. This is the commitment we have to one another, to be present for one another and to participate in a way of growth and mutual respect as we grow and evolve together. And you're all just so bright and shiny and wonderful. And I'm so blessed to be here. I think I'm reading Divine Audacity right now, and there's a quote in it that I want to share. It's for me, oneness and wholeness is everything. That's everything. Wholeness is what I am. And this quote from Divine Audacity: I am in you, and you are in me. Where you are, there I am. I am sown in all things, and when you gather me, it is you yourself who you gather. And that just speaks to all of your hearts and what I see community is possible. And I'm so grateful that you're all leading communities and being who you are in this world. Just thanks. Thanks for being you.
All right. Are we ready for the wheel again?
Will.
Bring
Fortune.
it on. There's only 3 left.
The mighty 3.
That's right. I'm glad it showed up that little thing at the end because I wasn't sure what number it was.
All right, Reverend Masato, are you ready, sir? Are you ready?
Sure, bring it.
All right, here we go. What one thing, in your opinion, do we need to lean into to actualize the idea of communal evolution? That's an easy one, too.
What one thing do we need to lean into to actualize the idea of communal evolution? There's so many. I think more than anything, we need to lean into our mirror neurons.
Oh yeah, of course.
Just this idea that like we're actually like engineered to be communal creatures. Like we are biologically set up to do so. Mm-hmm. That we are biologically set up to live in community. We are biologically set up to care about that community. That we have these mirror neurons that allow us to have empathy, allow us to be able to experience something that someone else is experiencing and have it feel like it's our own, right? We are biologically, engineered to have skin in the game in our community. If only we would just be willing to be a part of that community, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think, to me, like, I feel like an example of this is here in Portland, you probably all know that, the city is going through, change and transition in many ways. And there has been, there's been an epidemic of homelessness and people being unhoused in the city. And this city, unlike Denver that just comes in and sweeps just does these sweeps of camps, right? So like people don't have to see it. So like people still want to come to this perfect city. Portland's kind of like, well, these are human beings. We're not going to do that. Right. And I know it's complicated and I know, tough to be the mayor right now and to find solutions for this. But ultimately, right, I think one of the worst things that happened in our history is all of this segregation, right? Like, I think it's really important for us humans to see and feel when we see like homelessness and poverty around us, right? Like, we are burdened by our privilege, right? When you talk about what stands in the way, like, to me, it's oppression and privilege. It's inequity and privilege, right? It's the inability to engage in our empathy, which we just don't do when we're not sort of aware of what's happening in our community. If we're living in sort of you know, if we never are seeing it for ourselves, right? Why would we make a vote, you know, on the ballots if it's not impacting our own life in some way, right? And so, I don't know. That was the first thing that came to me. But yeah, it felt right. I'm sticking to it. I'm not here without people.
Doubling down on it.
It sounds perfect to me.
Yeah.
I like this idea of leaning into things. I think it's a great thing to lean into.
I don't know how we lean into our mirror neurons exactly. You know, other than just, you know, it's all this relationship building that we've been talking about. Just yeah, like
everyone's a comedian. Everyone's a comedian.
Well,
Yeah.
is that
Well
something?
played. Well played.
Is that something that we can exercise and build? I mean, I know we can strengthen neural pathways. Do those operate in the same way, that by engaging in that type of communal practice, are we strengthening those mirror neurons in that way? I don't know if any of us know or not, but
I think it's going on regardless. I think what the muscle that we need to strengthen is our action that we choose to take when we feel something. You know, they did that study where they hooked up all those Buddhist meditators.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember when they were doing that like 10, 20 years ago?
Yep.
And I remember one of the coolest parts of that research was when they, you know, not only would, like, pretty much everyone was having empathy when they were shown pictures of suffering in some way. That was happening across the board. The thing that like stood out for those experienced meditators was the part of their brain that lights up when you take action to do something about that suffering. It was just off the charts for experienced meditators for whatever reason it is. And so to me, the muscle we need to flex is like, hey, our mirror neurons are going to happen regardless. This is us as human beings. I think the muscle we need to flex is like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do about it? How are we going to allow that to move us? Will we be moved? Right? Will we allow ourselves to be human enough and divine enough to be moved by what we see?
Yeah, that is a really good question.
Reverend Masando, well, I don't want to answer the question exactly, but I want to follow up on something you said where you talked about, like, we're so removed that things aren't affecting our lives. And honestly, you know, I lived in Napa, California, and they literally bulldozed the homeless encampments because they wanted a pretty picture for the hot air balloons that were flying over, which just made me so angry. But now I live in the DC area, and they take care of the homeless encampments, and they pick up their trash, and they make sure they have food and all of this stuff. And so it actually brings me relief to see these encampments, because it's like, oh, I know these people are being taken care of. Like, I would rather see them and know that they're being taken care of, right? But it was interesting because somebody, I don't remember who it was, and Rev Ryan, if you were with me in this conversation, you remember who this was, please chime in. Somebody was talking about how we're so distant from every aspect of, like, our humanness. Like, even we don't gather our own food. We don't cook our own food. We don't kill our own meat. Like, everything comes packaged and sanitized and comfortable in every single area of our life, that we can just live in these little tiny bubbles of comfort and privilege and safety and, like, you know, all of this stuff. And so as you were talking about that, I was like, yeah, even all of that, like, even this ability to, like, package our own lives buys into this kind of distancing ourselves from what it truly means to be human, and to then tap into that humanness and say, am I going to be human enough to do what is being called of me to do?
Yeah. All right, we got to make it through two more questions. Back to the wheel. Chris, it's a showdown. It's only you and I left. I know everyone is biting their nails waiting to see who it's going to be. And there you have it.
All right. This is my turn to ask, right?
No.
You don't. No way. You don't get to ask me a question. No.
Oh, yeah, I forget.
I'm just kidding.
We get to ask, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Somebody-
right. Yeah, that's where my.
I mean, actually, maybe Chris, maybe you do get to ask me a question.
Yeah.
We could pass. Okay, too.
No, you don't get a pass. No one else did.
Who's got a tough one for Reverend Dan? No softballs.
I feel like if somebody puts one in the chat too, like that counts. Like it doesn't have to be a panelist. So
Yeah.
if you're out there and you have a question,
Absolutely.
I'll ask it for
That's
you.
true.
I'll ask a question. I got one.
Oh boy.
So, there's the whole Parliament of World Religions, right? So you've been selected to deliver the keynote for 2022. What message do you have for every spirituality, every religious path, etc., on the face of the planet?
Oh my word.
That's fabulous.
This feels like that showed up to school in your underwear dream. Oh man.
Wow.
No, I hope this doesn't seem like a cop out, but it's going to be the entire message of this week. That the entire universe is asking of us all to catch up. Right? This is the way the world is showing up in front of us has been asking us for years, and in a lot of cases, decades, generations, to do it different. And it's been ignored for a really long time, right? And so we are in this place of we get to be the ones. We get to be the ones to bring our personal transformation, that thing that work we do inside, that thing inside that we have the ability to change and look at and kind of like analyze from every angle and feel our way through from every way possible. To take that personal transformation, bring it out into the places where we meet other people, to allow our relational intersections to meet, right? We have this relationship this way that we think there is between us and something up out there, and we bring that together. That's one thing. That's not right. It's just different perspectives. And then we have these relationships of the people, and we tend to want to keep all those separate. And so we bring the personal transformation into the combination of those intersections, right? And so we bring personal transformation to our experiences, and we've been talking about that all week. And then we bring that personal transformation that continues. We then get to bring the way that we show up differently into our communities. And so our personal transformation continues and works. It intermingles with other people, and other people we all get to do that same thing. And then our community gets to be a different community. Then the communities begin to evolve internally, and the same thing happens. Those communities get to then go out into the world as different communities, being different, showing up in different ways, doing different things, right? Having this whole experience and creation of this space and all the things we talked about, right? We have created this brave space. We have created this agreement to show up authentically, to create the space to show up as we are with the edges, let the edges rub and bump and buff each other, and then to walk out into the world as this community and meet other communities that are doing the same thing and literally get to change the entire world because we decided to take that extra step. I think that's it.
I don't even need to register to go to the World Parliament of Religions. We already heard it.
I might have left out a couple of things, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a little bit of a soapbox, so maybe that wasn't a tough question.
We're ministers, so soapbox comes with the territory for part of what we do. So it's all good.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody else want to share their canned speech for the World Parliament for Religion?
We planned that one. I had that ready.
Should we bring back the wheel?
Oh man, I wonder.
Who's it gonna be?
Who's it gonna be? Here we go. You need to have the music.
The drama is intense.
It is. It is super intense. You must have the music. You must. Well, it doesn't even make the clicking sound anymore. That's
Click, 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 click.
Oh, it's number 4. Who would have thought?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of fitting that this question comes up now at this time with this person left, because it was mapped out just like this if we didn't take an extra question. So the question is, how many times a year should a senior minister wear a zebra onesie for the Sunday talk?
Wow.
Oh, so I mean, it's been 11 months, and so far the answer is 1, but like we haven't gotten to the end of the year yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the real answer
Still
is
time.
however many times you need to wear it to get Science of Mind out into the world, I think is actually the answer.
Yeah.
You wore it well. You wore it well too. You wore it very well.
I believe we might actually have some evidence.
Let's see. Is there evidence?
I believe that there is.
Yeah.
Oh, roll the tape. Yeah.
So is this the one time so far?
This is the one time so far.
So there's still time. There's
still time.
There's like 6 or 7 weeks left in the year, right? So
There are.
We could be up to like 8. 8 appropriate times.
8 times for the 6 weeks left. You know, it's so funny because because Rev Ryan yelled from the other room, did you write this question? And I was like, I literally have I did not write that question. And so I knew what the question was going to be. And it's interesting because I have a real answer to your silly question, C. Chris, which is, I think that we can get so serious and so caught up in taking ourselves and this teaching so seriously. Mm. And I think that does us a great disservice. And so I am constantly like reminding myself to lighten up. And I am constantly like reminding my community to lighten up. And I'm constantly like looking and thinking outside of the box of like, what can I do to like shake us up? And my question, Reverend Dr. David, you were talking about like things that you ask yourself in the morning. My question that I ask myself all the time is, how can I show up not like anybody would expect a senior minister to show up? Like my goal is for you to be like, you're a what? What? You know?
Oh, wow. Nice.
That's amazing. And so I think that we just all need to lighten up just a little bit and play a little bit more Hollywood Squares and wear just a few more onesies out in public and just like do whatever it takes to like enjoy. Like it's that pleasure side, right? Like we're human and humans have pleasure centers. And so why not like experience that pleasure and that joy and that happiness and like show up and just be big and bright and be like, oh shit, you're a minister too? Like what? You know? And then like have that be the way and the entrance into Science of Mind.
Well, you know, what's the beautiful part too is I was privy to that Sunday morning. I was Flash from Zootopia, Sloth. But anyway, what's interesting is that if you saw the picture of the community, everyone else was dressed up too.
Everyone else was dressed up too. And it was so beautiful.
And so that's the thing is like when we step into these spaces, these brave spaces, these spaces of discomfort, these spaces of whatever, then we invite others to do the same. Mm-hmm. And so then that's where the work is. And sometimes it's hard. I mean, hell, it's hard to wear a zebra onesie on a Sunday morning, but you know, sometimes that's what it takes. Obviously it's not hard for some, but I would difficult. But you know, I think that's to not take ourselves too seriously and be okay to step into those spaces, knowing that we invite others to do the same. When we show up that way, then it gives everyone else permission to show up that way. And shift can happen just through that, for sure.
Well, and what's so extra beautiful about this whole thing is I got this from Napa Valley CSL, by the way. Shout out to Reverend Jay. They do movie month every October. They study a movie, and then the last Sunday of the month they dress up. So I was like, we're doing that, right? And so we watched Zootopia. We studied Zootopia all month, and then we did a showing of it, a screening at our center, and then everybody dressed up. None of my people dressed up like Zootopia characters, except for Rev Ryan and I. Everybody else just came in costume though, and that's what I told them. I was like, just come in costume, have fun with it. But what was so beautiful is that that's all I said. I just kept saying, like, come in costume. And not only did like every single person come in a costume of all varying degrees, but like one person brought headband, like the silly headband costumes for anybody who didn't bring one. And there was this like joyful, like everybody taking pictures together and wearing the headbands. And like, there was just this beautiful moment of community. And I didn't have to do all of that. All I had to do was pave the way and have the idea. And then everybody else like took it and ran. And it was truly this moment of like beloved community that was so beautiful to witness. And I think that that's part of like community care, as well as just like putting the little ideas out there and then allowing other people to be like, yes, I've got this, and taking it and running together.
Wow. Yeah. I had no idea when I wrote that question that I was actually going to be. I didn't think I was going to be changed like this, but that's one of the most best answers for my own personal self that I got tonight. That's awesome from everybody.
Dude, shout out for talking about pleasure too. Like, we talk about desire a lot, but we do not talk about sex and pleasure very often.
Oh man, that is one of my soapboxes.
Right? And we should, right? Because let's be real, like, pleasure sustains us. Pleasure is good for our immune system. Pleasure motivates us. And it's not just about the desire. It's about taking a full experience of the manifestation of that desire and not missing out on any moment, right? Or instant or drop of that. And we don't talk about that much. But I don't like, Dr. Bob Dean, who's been, minister for 40 plus years, he was doing series on sex and stuff. I don't know when we became so Puritan. Like, when did we become such prudish people? Like, I don't understand. But anyways, shout out to that. Like, this is one of my favorite books about, forefront, right? Like, yeah. Adrienne Marie Brown talks about, this is such a fun book. She's just talking about sex and drugs and spirituality and activism all together. And it's just beauty. But I love what you're bringing, Rev Chris. And yeah, we need more of that. More, please. Don't stop.
Yeah. Rev Masano, that is literally the book I was about to be like, y'all need to read Pleasure Activism. That book, I mean, I've been doing pleasure work. I was a certified tantrika before I was a minister. Like, I've been doing this idea of like pleasure and sex and sexuality and spirituality for like years and years and years. And that book rocked my life. That book is incredible. It is a must read.
Y'all, I paid for part of my ministerial education doing pleasure parties. Nice. So I was a social worker for years, did death and dying, and I did abuse and neglect. And then I learned how to tell people how to have a rockin' orgasm. And, and keep a straight face in the ordering room. Like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. No, I didn't. But, like, wow. It was such a great learning experience. I think it would be phenomenal for all ministers to do such a thing and just really fully express, it's, I'm all for it. And thank you for the book recommendation, because I was thinking about it.
Yeah, dropped that in the cart. Funny story. I too have worked in the adult entertainment industry in a sense. So, maybe it's time to open the dialogue and have different conversations. Because what I was thinking about what you were saying, Chris, is that who told us life was so serious, right? Who told us? And going back to what Reverend Ray was talking about is that precedence, right? And I've been talking to brand new ministers going, what is a disservice is that this is how ministry is, and this is how ministers act, and this is, and I'm a bright, shiny unicorn kitten. I don't fit into that box. And we should stop trying to put everybody into that box as conscious leaders and stepping out into those focus areas of how healing can happen throughout every aspect of life. And let's do some more fun stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, like you just said, Steph, that precedent thing. So the concept of ministry enveloped in the idea of colonization, it's all about heaven and hell. It's a very serious matter because if you screw up, you're going to hell. So you got to be on your P's and Q's, dot every I, cross every T so you can get to heaven. Because when you get to the pearly gates, you don't want to get turned back because you ain't got the right documentation, right?
Right.
Even as that's it has become part of our tapestry as well. It's time to undo all of those threads and knit an entirely different garment for us to wrap around ourselves. So it's that unicorn zebra onesie. Like it's time for us to really go out. Why do you think my office looks like this? Because I'm not buying into the whole, so a minister must wear this and do this and speak like this. And look now, listen, I'm a gay Black man in 2021 who is a comic book superhero, movie fanatic, and nerd. You're going to get what you get when you get what you get it. And trust and believe it's always going to be steeped in principle and love and laughter and life affirming stuff. So like, that's how we change the world. And if we're ministers, like I'm going to go back, physicians, name one topic that physicians will not talk about because it's taboo. Doctors talk about everything from the top of our heads to the sphincter to the bottom of our feet and inside and outside. Why shouldn't we as metaphysicians be able to talk about all of the ways that God is incarnating? If God showed up as this one rib right here that when I touch it, it makes me giggle, then I should be able to talk about God giving me this giggle spot, this G spot that brings me great. Like I should be able to talk about all of it and so much more. Nice. For real.
Yeah. Boom. We have our winner. Do we have time for a bonus question?
Sure. Bonus question.
Yeah.
Bonus
Anybody
round.
who wants to answer. Yeah.
Speed
well,
round.
we use the speed round. Yeah. What are anyone who wants to answer this, I guess? What are some types of organizations or even businesses that we can partner with to co-create paradigm shifts?
Well, I'll do the short answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just do the short answer. Any organization that we recognize is doing the work that we do. So Reverend Cindy already said, prisons. Are they not? Now, granted, there are penitentiaries and prisons that are missing the mark because they're simply warehousing people. But we understand that the point of it is, so let's partner with them. There are schools, partner with them. You know, the ODM that we have for CSL talks about getting into every sector of politics, education, etc. So find those. Reverend Chris mentioned the homeless. So CSL Greater Baltimore, we partnered with an organization in Baltimore that helps veterans who are homeless and or drug addicted, etc., do whatever they need to do to heal and get back on their feet so they can get back out in the world. So we partnered with them. So the first Saturday before COVID, thank you, Chris. Before that happened, we would go there the first Saturday of every month, cook them dinner, and serve them and fellowship with them. There's an elementary school that we've connected with, that we read to the kids, let them read to us, and we connect with them. Find whatever is in your community. It doesn't matter. It could be Starbucks. Like, it really doesn't matter. Find whoever is in your community that is reaching people, connect with them and say, so how can we connect? How can we build synergy and reach people?
Yeah, I would say if you're in a church, there's so much amazing faith-based community organizing happening in every city across this country. Whether that's, through Industrial Areas Foundation or Faith in Action or fill in the blank, right? Like, no matter where you are, there's other people of faith that are doing this work, and they're doing it together, and they're doing it from a spiritual foundation and perspective. I have found those spaces to be my favorite spaces to do justice work, because that rootedness, it just brings so much more. It just brings a sense of sustainability, right? And knowing sort of, like this long tradition of being a part of justice movements, like, Reverend Dr. David was speaking to when he spoke. Like, let's be real, like, we come from a long line of this, right? So it allows us to sort of step into the stream of that and recognize there's so much that has come before, and there's so much that will come after us. So what are we going to do with this bit of the stream that we have, and how are we going to make the most of it together?
I just dropped one in the chat, inclusive.co, which is it used to be called Civic Dinners, and they've got a beautiful model for basically creating dinner parties and having conversations around tough topics. They provide you the questions, the guidelines, the research background information, how to facilitate it. You could do it in your home. You could do it at Starbucks. You could do it in a church or a community space. You don't have to do it at dinner. You could do it at lunch in the park. But it's a great way to bring diverse groups of people together. The city of Brookhaven, where I serve as a commissioner for Diversity and Equity Commission, we did a series of these dinners throughout the city that the city paid for to bring citizens together, and it was just profound. So great way to do all the things that we talked about tonight.
I live in a Bible Belt area, the South, and so I have not directly as interfaced with these organizations as Center for Spiritual Living. What we did was create a separate nonprofit organization. So we could use that nonprofit and go to any other potential partner, be it another church or a city organization or whatever. But it was important that we not have a religious designation, because that for us where we live would have been an added challenge that we didn't need. So I think, every community needs to look at, to know, where you are and what's going to fly, and just get out there, find the people who are doing the work. We have lots of groups that I align with personally, and then see what the community wants to align with, what kinds of organizations, if it's the spouse abuse shelter, the domestic violence shelter, or maybe it's the foster kids or the veterans. I mean, there's so many different groups. And we also open our center and have Toastmaster groups at our center. So it's a great way, to teach leadership skills and also to help people hone their communication skills. And selfishly, it's awesome for me to have really phenomenal communicators in my community, right? That can share our message effectively. So that's what we do.
Awesome. Well, I think we're just about time.
We are at that hour.
Yeah.
Did we want to acknowledge the question in the comment? I know David just answered it in the comments, but I know we're at the hour. Sorry to rain on y'all's at the hourness.
If someone else sees that question and wants to pop it up, that would.
So the question is, for the ministers who operate per those tithing the most, or from a place of fear of people leaving their center, what words of encouragement do you have for them to operate from principle and not fear?
Yeah, and what I said was just understand your why. What is your why? I spoke to mine about my children, and understand your why. Build your courage and your team of people that are around you that may not be in your community, but a team of people who believe in you and believe in your why, and be bold. Just be bold and strike out. The world needs prophetic voices of courage and change, not timid voices of trying to hold everybody. If you're trying to hold your community together, there's certainly all the values that we've talked about, making space for people and understanding and being curious, and don't lose sight of those values, but also on the other side, don't be such a doormat where you're not afraid, you're so afraid to touch a subject because somebody might get up and walk out. Touch them all. And what I always say to people is, look, if what I've said offends you, then take it up with your offense, not with me. Right? Because that's where you need to look, and I'll hold space for you to look at that, right, without judging you for it. And you can walk away today and come back in 6 months and go, oh my God, here's what I learned, and I'll welcome you back. Or we can do it together. But it's not going to slow me down from speaking my why and standing in that prophetic voice, because the hour is late and the time is now. When I had Bishop Flinder come and speak in San Diego for a New Thought Justice conference we did with AG&T, I was interviewing her and I said, what do you want to say to these folks? I want to write up a bio and what your topic is going to be about. And she said, I love the New Thought movement. I love the way you pray. I love the way you speak about God in such an inclusive way. She said, but if I had one message for you, it would be this: stop praying as if lives are not on the line. Which is about really get that you have power in your words. You understand the power of your word, but stop using it in this sort of wimpy, love and light way that doesn't hold with it the gravity that there are lives on the line today in this moment. Use the power of that word and consciousness in a way that is directed at those things in the world. And will people leave? Yeah, there'll be some people that'll leave, but more people will come. If you're anchored in your why in a powerful way, people are attracted to that.
And real quick to add on to that, which was beautifully stated, I love that. To go back to what I said before about principle, so if you're afraid that they're going to stop tithing or the tithing is gone, then where's your source? What is your source? So just be very clear. Am I looking at the congregation as the source of prosperity, wealth, and whatever? What is that? Where does it come from? Because if you are deeply steeped in, grounded in, aligned with the truth of what God, Spirit, the universe is, then you know that for every person that leaves, there is now a vacuum for 10 to come in, 10 who are in alignment with creating a world that works for all. So just come back, like Reverend Dr. David said, what is your why? And recognize that God is that why. Why am I here? Because God is incarnating and individualizing itself in, through, and as me. And so every word that I speak is the universe speaking. The voice celestial is rising up through my lungs, through my vocal cords, across my tongue, past my lips, into the infinite of creation. And what Bible says, we have the power of life and death in our tongue. So yes, Bishop Flunder, yes, it is time for us to speak blessings and healing with the power that we have in knowing that our teaching is the truth, that this teaching changes lives. Everyone on here's life has been changed. We know it works. So if it works, work it. Treat and move our feet.
Mm-hmm.
And just really quick to add on to that, in addition to knowing your own why individually, having a strong vision for your community and then enrolling your community in your vision. Because if you enroll people in your vision, then everything else will follow, all of the resources, all of the money. And I think we have such a tendency, we call ourselves this prosperity teaching, and then we make money our God as a result. And so we need to let that go. The money is secondary. All it is a tool. All it is a resource. And so if we have a strong vision, if we know our personal why, and then we have a strong vision for our community, and then we enroll our community in that vision, then there's no choice but for it to work out. The money has no choice but to follow.
I'm going to invite you all to help me in a marketing campaign that just like dropped in for me. Help Wanted, conscious individuals to create a world that works for everyone. Qualifications, right? A solution, possibilitarian oriented, way of being. And, like all the things that we actually want in our community, right? And then what is it? So we've got our qualifications and your benefits, right? What do you get out of it? A life that you love, a life of meaning and purpose. That's your compensation. All are welcome.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Apply within.
Help me create it.
I love it.
Beautiful.
Is it going to do the thing? Try and make it do the thing and be fancy.
Oh, there we are. Fancy. This has been amazing. This whole week, I have just been inspired by the words of each and every person on the panel, and joining us at Soul Evolution Collaborative in the fun. We always like to play and have fun and bring this teaching in new and inviting ways. It's really fun to actually have other people play with us. So this has been a great opportunity for everyone to play along with us, and we have some other opportunities. I'm gonna give you just a quick rundown. We're gearing up for the holiday season. But at SEC, we always have to do things a little bit different. So this year we're doing setting aside 31 days in December to honor and celebrate the light which animates and sustains life. So each evening of the month, we are going to be going live to lead the community and all those who are participating in just a few short moments of recognition and celebration of the many ways that we know the light shows up in our lives. And so in addition, all those that can participate in daily activities that encourage connection, joy, spreading the love that is the core of the sacred time. So 31 days, 31 expressions, 31 ways to celebrate. And so you can participate by signing up at soulevolutioncollaborative.org. You'll get links and reminders and all that fun stuff as we participate in the 31 days of December. Some other ways to play with soulevolutioncollaborative.org. You can get involved in our Truth Be Told, which is our Tuesday night programs at 7. Our Unwind Wednesdays, which is our spiritual practice that happens on Wednesday evenings at 7. The Gathering, which is our small group gathering where we really dive deep into a lot of these amazing topics and really kind of talk about how they show up in our own personal lives and how we can learn from those experiences of others. And we have our Strip Down Sunday, which is our kind of our fun way of bringing principle and truth on Sunday at 12:30. So there's so many ways to get involved and many more are coming. So thank you so much for playing. Come play again.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Awesome.